Imagine you could trick your own brain into suddenly wanting to do the very things that feel hardest to you today. Learning, exercising, focused work. None of it would feel like a daily battle anymore. At first, that sounds impossible. After all, the same brain that seems exhausted after 20 minutes of work can effortlessly watch 3 episodes of a show in a row. It can remember the names, maps, and rules of a video game that are probably more complicated than some final exams. But the moment you open a book, it suddenly develops an urgent interest in inspecting the refrigerator. Most people call that laziness or a lack of discipline. But in reality, that explanation doesn't fit. Because our brain doesn't reject difficult things by default. People spend hours learning an instrument, climbing a mountain, or sitting with a puzzle. Some train for months to run a marathon, even though, objectively speaking, it involves an astonishing amount of voluntary suffering. Why does one form of effort feel almost intoxicating, while another becomes unbearable after just a few minutes? The real difference begins before the task even starts. It lies in what your brain expects. If it detects progress, excitement, or a clear outcome, it can release enormous amounts of energy. If that outcome seems distant and uncertain, it starts looking for a better offer. And today, there are more than enough of those. Imagine you want to learn a new language. After 10 minutes, you can barely form a complete sentence. Progress is slow, your mistakes are immediately obvious, and the reward lies somewhere in a distant future where you're supposedly speaking effortlessly with native speakers. Then, in the evening, you sit down to play a video game and willingly spend hours solving difficult puzzles, memorizing complex game mechanics, and failing 20 times against the same final boss without giving up. You probably don't say, "This is exhausting." Quite the opposite. It's fun. But when you're studying vocabulary, no golden message appears above the table after 20 minutes saying, "Congratulations, your Spanish is now 3% better." The brain compares effort with the expected reward. High effort with an uncertain outcome feels risky. Small effort with visible progress feels attractive. This calculation comes from a time when energy was precious. Anyone who spent hours chasing an uncertain opportunity could end up empty-handed. An easily accessible reward was therefore often the wiser choice. Our brain still operates according to those same rules. The only difference is this. In the past, getting a reward required a lot of energy. Today, reaching for your phone is often enough, and something new is already waiting. Compared to such instant rewards, learning, exercising, or focused work hardly stand a chance. Have you ever heard of dopamine? It's often described as the happiness hormone. That sounds nice, but it explains very little. Dopamine becomes especially active when the brain expects a reward. Its job is less about making us enjoy something and much more about making us desperately want it. That's why the anticipation of something appealing can often be stronger than the thing itself. You spend the whole day looking forward to a particular meal, only to devour it in a few minutes instead of actually savoring it. Rewards that seem unpredictable are especially powerful. After all, you never know whether the next video will be boring, funny, or completely absurd, and that uncertainty keeps the search going. The brain doesn't think, "I've seen enough." It thinks, maybe something even better is about to appear. The crazy part is that your brain doesn't decide whether a task is interesting. It decides whether it's more interesting than the alternative. And when videos, games, or social media are competing for your attention right next to it, almost every long-term task loses that comparison. Almost everyone makes the same mistake. They believe they have to defeat their brain. In reality, it's simply waiting for proof that the effort is actually worth it. Our brain doesn't believe good intentions. It believes what it experiences over and over again. Our brain gives new tasks only a very short window of opportunity. Within the first few minutes, it decides whether something belongs in the category of worthwhile or a waste of time. If it immediately experiences frustration, uncertainty, or boredom, it already starts looking for something that promises quicker success. That's why the first few minutes are often the most important. That first impression often lasts surprisingly long. Once your brain has classified a task as exhausting or not worth the effort, every additional mistake feels like proof that the effort isn't worth it. But if the same task begins with a small success or a moment of genuine curiosity, it evaluates the following minutes much more positively as well. Interestingly, your brain doesn't make a completely new decision every time. It works with shortcuts. After many repetitions, it sorts activities into simple categories: worthwhile, risky, exhausting, or familiar. This classification often happens long before you consciously think about it. That's exactly why some tasks already feel difficult even before you've started. Imagine two people. Both of them could pick up their phone right now. One experiences it as relief. The other experiences it as an interruption. The interesting part is this: they both have the same brain. The only difference is what that brain has become accustomed to over months or years. When you repeat the same task again and again, your brain gathers evidence about what usually happens. With every repetition, its prediction becomes a little more accurate. At some point, it's no longer the task that changes, but your brain's expectation. It no longer automatically expects frustration or failure. As a result, the very same activity begins to feel easier, even though objectively nothing has changed. So maybe your brain was never the enemy. Maybe it was simply waiting for evidence the whole time. That's why the same mechanism that distracts you with your phone today may one day make you naturally reach for the very thing that once felt hardest. But there's something even more surprising behind all of this. We often assume that our brain is mainly searching for happiness or pleasure. But many psychologists suspect that something else is at least just as important. Your brain wants to confirm what it already believes to be true about you. If you often think, "I never stick with things like this anyway," your brain unconsciously pays attention to every situation that confirms exactly that. If you quit a workout or postpone a task, it fits that picture perfectly. Our brain loves this kind of confirmation, not because it's good for us, but because predictability requires less energy than constantly changing its mind. Psychologists often refer to this as a tendency to notice information that matches our existing beliefs more strongly. This doesn't only apply to political opinions or beliefs about other people, but also to the image we have of ourselves. Someone who sees themselves as disciplined will unconsciously notice situations that confirm exactly that. Someone who is convinced they always fail will often remember those moments especially well. That easily creates the impression that your self-image is simply reality, even though your brain is constantly selecting which experiences receive the most attention. But this mechanism has a surprising side as well. Every time you finish a difficult task anyway, you're doing more than just checking another item off your to-do list. You're giving your brain a small piece of evidence that its previous assessment may no longer be correct. One piece of evidence changes very little, 10 change a bit more. Enough experiences can eventually turn that into a new normal. So maybe the real trick is simply giving your brain enough new experiences for long enough that it changes its own assessment. Because then something important shifts. The very same task suddenly feels natural. Not because it has become easier, but because your brain now expects something it couldn't see before. That the effort is worth it.